You're listening to Radio Primavera Sound, proudly presented by Cupra.
Hello and welcome once again to Line Noise. February the 17th, 2025 will mark the 5th anniversary of Andrew Weatherall's tragic death. And 3 days before that, Material Music is going to be releasing A Love from Outer Space, which is a compilation compiled and mixed by Sean Johnston, who DJed and ran the A Love from Outer Space club night with Andrew Weatherall, and who continues to do so, in fact. The compilation features 19 songs that capture the essence of the ALFOS night. They call it ALFOS. And many of the songs are exclusive. It was a real pleasure to speak to Sean this January about the new album, about arriving in London in 1988 during Acid House Madness, about 122 BPM limits, the all-time A Love from Outer Space anthems, and what it was like to DJ at ALFOS days after Weatherall's passing. It was a lovely interview to do. I really hope you enjoy it, and I hope you enjoy the album as well. Line Noise, as ever, comes to you with the support of Cupra, so thank you to them.
All good. No, thank you for taking the time.
No, thanks for asking me, mate. Appreciate it.
So, I mean, obviously, one of the reasons we're talking about is there's a new A Love from Outer Space album, which is coming out this month, I believe.
February the 14th.
Valentine's Day, of course.
Yeah, so kind of got a nice circularity to it.
And that obviously represents music from the party that you did with Andrew Weatherall and continue to do today. Exactly
that.
But before we go on to that, I just wanted to ask a bit about your history. You started DJing in York.
Okay. Yeah, so this is a fairly long and convoluted story. So I'll try and abbreviate it as much as I can. But I grew up in a very rural part of East Yorkshire. Grew up on a farm. Wasn't a great deal to do. And at some stage in my early teens, somebody bought me a Sony Walkman, which... I then spent all of my pocket money buying cassettes to stick in the Sony Walkman. And then later, when my friends started to go to watch the football, this was Hull City back in the 80s when they're at the bottom of the old 4th Division. I went a few times and it was scary, really scary, really violent. We always lost, and it wasn't for me. But what I did find was that while they went to the football, I could go to... There's one really big record shop in Hull at the time called Sydney Scarborough. So my friends would go to the match and I'd spend the afternoon in Sydney Scarborough. So, from an early age, I was an avid music collector. And that time in the 80s was the golden age of synth pop and indie music. And it was an exciting time to be young and into music. And I ended up going to Hull University and realised very quickly that academia was not for me, but music definitely was. So I became the social secretary of Hull University, put on a few shows and started. I fell into DJing as people did in those days by default, and just by dint of the fact that I had a big record collection. People go, "Well, can you come play at our party?" And my first, I don't know if you'd call it a professional engagement, but the first time I was paid to play music in public. Do you remember the Fine Young Cannibals, the pop band?
Yes, definitely, yeah. I was just thinking of them, actually.
So Roland Gift's sister, Rana, ran a club called the Sugar Shack, which was in the Welly Club in Hull, which is an old... I'm not sure if it was a working men's club, one of these old kind of ballrooms, but there was a big room downstairs and a little room upstairs. And the downstairs room, the resident DJs were Steve Cobby and Porky, Steve from Fila Brasilia and Porky from... And Rana asked me to play upstairs, so I started playing records that are in my collection, which were a mixture of factory records, on-you sound records, synthy pop records, and early kind of Chicago house things that I'd started to cotton onto. So I moved to London in 1988 to I was parted ways involuntarily with academia, and thought, yeah, okay. So I landed a job as a junior booking agent, and I was the agent for the Inspiral Carpets, but also kind of had one foot in the world of indie, but another foot in the world of acid house. So I became the agent at the Inspiral Carpets, and Jeff Barrett, Heavenly Records, Jeff Barrett, had left Creation, started his own press company called Capersville, and they were looking after the press for the Inspirals. And I went to Jeff's office one day to see Jane Houghton, who looked after the Inspirals, and Jeff said, "Oh, I'm glad you're here. I'm meeting Andrew Weatherall for lunch. Do you want to come with me?" So Jeff Barrett took me for lunch with Andrew, and we kind of hit it off. And it transpired that we had very similar. We've both been kind of, avid John Peel listeners, and despite him being a bit older and us living at opposite ends of the country, we found that we had very similar tastes in music and also pretty similar sense of humour. I mean, Andrew, despite all of the many brilliant things you hear about him, was the funniest man you'd ever meet in your life. So that's how I came to meet Andrew and kind of fall into. When I moved to London, I DJed a little bit, and it was mostly warm-up gigs. I was, really deeply embedded in the scene, and it was Balearic Beats, acid house, and doing the rounds of the record shops every Saturday, buying the imports. And, I'd be that guy that was there from 10 o'clock in the evening till midnight when somebody with a bigger name arrived to take the glory. But, I'd been, professional warm-up DJ for some years.
I was going to ask about Hull. I mean, were you the first person playing house in Hull?
No. There were... I mean, I wasn't really just playing house, because at the time, hang on, I'll qualify this. The amount of house music that was available in Hull, Leeds and Manchester was fairly limited. But, I was playing stuff like Depeche Mode, these kind of Euro pop records like Desireless, Voyage, early house tracks like Hercules, Seven Ways to Jack, and Love Can't Turn Around, but it was also kind of intermixed with Tackhead, Mark Stewart and the Mafia, Donna Summer, and Bronski Beat, and it was, I guess, coming very much from that kind of northern alternative dance kind of thing. So, I wouldn't have the presumption to suggest that I was the first person in Hull playing house music, but I was certainly on it earlier than most. I mean, I tell you what I did do when I was a social secretary of Hull University. DJ International did a world tour, and I promoted that. So we had Farley Jack Master Funk and Daryl Pandy in the refectory at Hull University in 1986, which was quite an event.
I was going to say, because I'll kill myself by that. I absolutely love the Inspiral Carpets. They're one of my favourite kind of groups from that time.
Do you know what? I'm still in touch with Martin, the bass player. We did a little musical project together during lockdown.
Very, very underrated group, I think.
Yeah.
So you moved to London in 1988. I mean, that for me spells madness. What, rave madness? Was it like that? It was. Like I say, I was a booking agent. A large part of my job was going out. I went out every night of the week, and there was a whole circuit of gigs that were in back rooms or function rooms of pubs. Like there's the Bull and Gate in Kentish Town. There was Dingwalls in Camden, and my, part and parcel of my job was to go and keep tabs on what was going on and try and look for up and coming bands to potentially represent. But equally, as a result of doing that, I got flyers for things that were, people were starting to talk about acid house. The first thing that I went to, I think in 1988, was a thing in Battlebridge Road in King's Cross, which was organised by a Mutoid Waste Company, and that was that was quite an event. It was an old bus station, I think, or a bus garage, and in the main room they'd built this kind of drum pyramid out of 45-gallon drums, but then there was out the back there was Nissan huts, and somebody was playing like proper banging Chicago acid in one of these. So yeah, it was, and then I started to meet a few people in the music industry that were kind of clued up to what was going on in the Balearic scene, and then weirdly I met a guy at a bus stop in Camden Road, and we were standing there waiting for the 29 bus, and I looked at him and he looked at me, and I said, "Are you going to a rave?" He said, "Yeah, you." I said, "Yeah, I was thinking about it." And this guy, Ben McKnight, he was like one of the Shoom, Danny Rampling kind of inner circle, and they took me to it was in Slough, in a recreation centre in Slough, with Danny Rampling playing in Slough Centre, and it was like, blew my mind. So I kind of got drawn into that more kind of Balearic, the Rampling, Weatherall, the kind of slightly, but I was particularly drawn to Andrew because of the first time I saw him play, it was in a house party, and he was playing Dub Syndicate, Chris and Cozy, William Orbit, and I just at the time thought, I'm the only person in the world knows this record. Who the fuck's this person? He's my man. So
I'm interested. I think it's interesting because talking about A Love from Outer Space, I think Andrew Weatherall compared it to playing at Shoom once.
Yeah, right? He did.
What was the comparison? I mean, just because you could play.
So, well, I think the thing about it was that Andrew and I had, it was a lengthy friendship. I met him it was either 1989 or 1990. I made a record that he put out on Sabres of Paradise during the panel beaters from Prague years, when we were all heavily into kind of Detroit techno. And then, this friendship had gone on for a long time, but I moved into a flat in Shoreditch with my friend Richard Hepwood, and a girl called Lizzie Walker moved in with us, and Lizzie became Andrew's partner. And Andrew came round to our place one night in a bit of a flap going, I need to go to Brighton, and my driver's let me down. So we get in the car, and he said to me, what have we got to listen to? And I'm like, oh, fucking hell, the only thing that we've got to listen to is 3 CDs, mixed CDs that I've made of like really weird slow music that I'm into at the moment. And he said, put it on. So I put them on, and he said, put another one on. So by the time we got to Brighton, we listened to these 3. This must have been about 2008. And he said, this is really good. We should do something with this. But I kind of got the feeling at that point in his career, he's kind of shuffling himself around all the, Watergate in Berlin and like all of the big name clubs, but he's getting booked to play what he called umpty bumpty music. But I think that he felt he never actually explicitly said to me that he felt like he'd painted himself into a corner, but he just, I mean, I don't know if you met Andrew yourself, but personally, Ben, but he was, I think that it was very serendipitous in that he's playing this music which he's expected to play, and the last thing that Andrew liked was any kind of, if people were expecting him to do something, then there was something in him that thought, well, if that's what you expect, this is not what you're going to get. So, but I think it was, the thing about it was, he'd reached a point where I think he was not necessarily bored, but he wanted to do something else. And with A Love from Outer Space, I think, I can't remember the quote, he said that he'd been looking for something for 20 years, and what he actually had at the beginning was really what he wanted. So it's that kind of Bruce Lee would call it beginner's mind, I guess, but it was just With a Love from Outer Space, despite the fact that we kind of set the BPM limit at 122, but we could play anything, and we did play anything. I mean, it was like krautrock records, dub records, disco records, reggae records, proto house records, tech house records from 2008 at the wrong speed. It was like, and I think that he just relished that. But it had not an anything goes kind of spirit, but it was open ended and completely free, and we could make it up as we went along, and we did, and I still do to the day.
I mean, the tagline was an oasis of slow in a world of increasing velocity, right? Which I think says a lot.
Yes. It seems to have got quite a bit faster as well since he coined that one. But
I mean, when you talked about, nothing above 122 beats per minute,
mm-hmm.
Did you actually get together before and actually discuss it and be like, right,
yeah. Yeah, I said, look, we want to play this slow music, but we can't play really slow stuff. We can't play really, really slow stuff all night. We're going to have to kind of pick it up a bit. Otherwise, people just wouldn't be ready for it. So we picked, it was like 120, 122. Let's call it 122. That gives us quite a bit of scope, because it means towards the end of the night, we can play some, techno records pitched down a bit, and it kind of gave us enough of the bandwidth was perfect.
Did you get people coming in who were upset that it was?
Oh yeah, oh my god. So yes, and weirdly, it was mostly girls.
All right.
Yeah, they'd come. So we started it at the Drop in Stoke Newington, and they'd come. And they go, can you come up to the booth and go, they kind of gesticulate like that. And we both kind of look at our watches and go, and people got really angry. There's quite a funny story. One night, one guy came up and he started harassing Andrew, and he said, what's this shit? Why, this is rubbish. What are you playing at? This isn't dance music. And Andrew looked at him and he said, how much did you pay to get in here? And the guy said, yeah, £5. Andrew reached into his pocket, took out a tenner and said, there's a tenner, fuck off.
You see, I find it quite weird that, like, people, Andrew Weatherall's a very big man.
Yeah.
This music. People knew who he was. People knew what he did. I find it weird that people would be, like, people kind of would have that view, I mean, like, do
you know, see, the thing about it was that there were people, when we started it, I think we had no idea if anybody was going to go for it or not. The first night we did it, I think about 80 people turned up, and a lot of them were guys of a certain age, Weatherall acolytes, other DJs that were curious to see what we were going to do. And but also the thing about it was that the Drop was at the time the only place in Stoke Newington where you could get a drink after 12:30. So inevitably you'd get a few people kind of like rolling in off the street on the basis that and they were largely the ones that took offence to it, but the ones that came and they didn't know exactly what to expect, but they wanted to see what Andrew was going to do next. They kind of really lapped it up, and it went from being is anybody going to turn up to it being an absolute scrummage every time we did it.
You did on Thursday nights, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that deliberate as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, because I think it was an experiment. Andrew, he didn't want to detract from Andrew's work at the weekends, and also we thought Thursday night, to use a slightly politically incorrect expression now, sort the men from the boys, really. So.
You said you could play some weird stuff. What was like the weirdest record you remember playing?
I found a track by Richard Wanfrid, Time Actor. It's actually Klaus Schultz, and it's about 10 minutes long, and it features Arthur Brown from the Crazy World of Arthur. a 10-minute, I don't know if he's on acid or mushrooms, but a 10-minute exposition about the qualities of time and relative dimensions in space. If you've never heard the record, Ben, I urge you to look it up on YouTube immediately after we finish this. But it's Richard Wanfried, Time Actor. But I mean,
I'm going to.
But yeah, I mean, all sorts of things, unexpected things. I don't know where to start with that, because there have been some very odd records played, particularly things at the wrong speed, which take on a whole different quality.
So, obviously, you decided to keep doing the club after Andrew died in.
Well, yeah, no. So I didn't. So what happened? This is what happened was Andrew passed away, and completely by quirk of fate, the week that he passed away, we had a Love from Outer Space booked at Phonox, and it was such a shock. It was so unexpected. All of us, his immediate friends, family, everybody's utterly in shock. And I just personally immediately assumed that it wouldn't go ahead. And but then, sort of getting on later in the week, various people called me and said, "You know what, Sean? I think it might be an idea if you can you do this? Because there's going to be, a lot of people that won't be invited to the funeral, and you really, for the benefit of fans and people that didn't know him closely personally, you should maybe think about doing it for the benefit of the community." So I did it, and then fairly shortly after that, it was lockdown.
Mm.
So at that point, it was I hadn't really thought about whether it was going to continue. I was more really concerned about whether or not life on Earth was going to continue at the time. So
fun days.
It's fucking bizarre when you think back on it. But I quickly realised that I wasn't going to be DJing in public for possibly a very long time, if not ever again. And so I started doing the ALFOS emergency broadcast system, which was like in the initial stages of lockdown, it became quite a regular broadcast. But as things, I still do it, but it's becoming less and less frequent. But, I did the 50th edition on New Year's Eve this year. So doing the emergency broadcast, did it on Twitch, and there's a chat function. So whilst I play records, they all chat, and it became apparent from various people messaged me and said, "Look, when things come back, you've got to continue this. It's like so many of us are invested in it, and we need you to carry on, please. We're sorry that he's gone, but don't dare think about stopping it." So it wasn't really my decision. It was kind of taken out of my hands.
How hard was it to do that first, the first night after he passed away?
Oh man, it was. It was really hard. It was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. I mean, I didn't have a lot of time to prepare for it, but I knew that I needed to play records that were associated with Andrew, some of his productions, some of the records that I knew were his own personal favourite, things that had been important in his life. So that set was, I knew I'm not the kind of person who can speak at a funeral. I just can't control my emotions in that kind of way. But I knew that I could put together some music which would present some kind of, my musical eulogy to Andrew. So it was hard. I cried through most of it, but I put a record on and get a bit of a lump in the throat, and I throw back another tequila and then get on with it. But yeah, it was tough. It was really tough, but also at the same time cathartic as well. I actually felt more closure from doing that than I did from going to his memorial service.
Maybe you've already answered this, but I don't know. I kind of want to ask, like, what keeps you doing the ALFOS nights? Is it just because other people have the demand, or what?
No, I know. I'm afraid to say that there is a part of me that is an absolutely and utterly compulsive music sharer and finder. I am still. You maybe remember going to buy records when you were younger, teen years, and coming home and going, "Yeah, I have to listen to this." I mean, that part of me still very much alive and going strong. And Andrew kind of described it as a vampiric process whereby you'd never get that feeling again, but by sharing it with other people and seeing the looks on their faces, you could kind of absorb some of that energy. But I don't know if I necessarily see it that way. It's just I like to share music. I've always liked to share music, and I like to DJ. I really like to DJ. It's I try and remember in Chariots of Fire, the guy said that he was made to run and he could feel God's joy when he ran. Oh, well, that's a bit of a highfalutin analogy, but I do feel that when I DJ, that is what I'm meant to be doing. So,
has it become a lot harder to run a night post-pandemic, with the cost of living crisis and all that?
No, I'm very fortunate in that all of that's taken away from me by my booking agent and the incredible people that take a chance on promoting nights. I've got nothing but respect for those people. But yes, I think that the short answer to that is yes, considerably. But I'm kind of a little bit cushioned from that. I just need to turn it with my headphones and the USB and make sure the music's good. But
was it always that way, or at the start were you kind of like involved in, I don't know, organising the guest list and kind of,
No, yeah. When we did it at the drop, I was the promoter, getting flyers printed and all that kind of stuff. And then there was a period of time where we did it at Block in Hackney Wick, and I was effectively the promoter for that. But it's just I find it really stressful. It's like, that feeling that when everybody has that feeling you have a party for your birthday or something, there's that terrible feeling that nobody's going to turn up. And it's not for me. I've the utmost respect of anybody who sticks their neck out on these on that kind of stuff, festivals, clubs, any kind of event.
Totally agreed. So you mentioned you love sharing music. That kind of brings us to the compilation out on Valentine's Day. What was the thinking behind the compilation?
Okay, so when we first started A Love from Outer Space, Andrew did his masterpiece compilation with Ministry of Sound, and that record was very much informed by the early sound of A Love from Outer Space. And Gav Fraser, who organised it with Andrew and the Ministry of Sound, approached us before Andrew passed away and said, "Look, we really should do an A Love from Outer Space compilation." And Andrew and I looked at each other and said, "Yes, we really should do an A Love from Outer Space compilation." But then events overtook us, and Andrew passed away, and the COVID came along, and then things came back, and they said to me, "Look, shall we talk about this?" And I said, "Do you know what? I'm not really in the headspace for it. I'm kind of getting used to even having conversations with groups of more than 3 people. I'm finding quite challenging at the moment." So, but then it struck me that 15 years of running a nightclub's something worth celebrating, and they came back to me 18 months ago, maybe 2 years ago, and said, "Look, can we do this?" And I said, "Yeah, I think if we can get it to coincide with 15 years of running the club, then it'd be a nice way of marking, where we'd come from, records that I'd played, records that Andrew liked, some records that Andrew'd made, but also it's kind of this is where as was, as is, and what will be kind of a situation.
Are they sort of 19 of the anthems, basically?
No, not necessarily. Making a compilation album in this day and age it's a weird business, because you start. Bless you. You start with a long list. I think I started with a long list of 50 or 60, and then you find that some of them contain illegal samples that are going to incriminate people. Some of them are owned by major record companies who want extortionate amounts of money to license them. Some of them are only available for some territories. Some available only digitally, and what starts as a long list soon becomes a much shorter list, and then you find yourself in a position of having to stitch together what you've got in some sort of a cohesive fashion. But what I did want to do was that there was a lot of things that we played over the years that were friends of ours that were producers had sent to us and shared with us that had never been released. So there's the Neville Watson's dub of the Blow Monkeys, which is an amazing record, but had never been released. I don't know the ins and outs of that. And then Brioski Calling 626. It was we came across Brioski because he did a remix for the Emperor Machine. Radio Anatomy, I think it was, that Andrew played a lot. And I tracked down Claudio on Facebook and said, "We really like your record. Have you got any more?" And he sent me a bunch of demos, of which many became, anthems at the club. I mean, they were popular at the club, but nobody else played them. But I introduced Claudio to James Friedman at Throne of Blood, and James signed a few of the tracks. And I expected that he'd pick up Calling 626, but he didn't. And so I messaged Claudio and I said to him, "Look, have you still got that track? Have you done anything with it?" And he said, "No." I said, "Right, I want to license it for the compilation, please." So and then what else was there? Popular Tire, Feel Like a Laser Beam. So that's Quinn Whaley of Paranoid London.
Mm-hmm.
He had another track called This Is Your DISCO, which was kind of like a pastiche Italo with a ridiculous robotic vocoder. This is your DISCO. And I played that a lot, and nobody else played it, but I played it a lot, and Quinn was delighted that I was playing it. And I bumped into him and he said, "Do you know what? I found a hard drive of that I'd forgotten that I had, and I plugged it in, and on the hard drive there's this one track, and I reckon you're going to like it." So he sent me Laser Beam, and that one became an anthem. So that had been unreleased, and then there were others like Jay Shepherd's remix of can't remember the name of the title. My brain's going to let me down. The Jay Shepherd remix was an anthem, and then
If You Want Me.
Yeah, If You Want Me, that was one that I found and played a lot. And then Chemo Whirl was one that Andrew found and played a lot. So it was, I wanted to have, a mixture of my contribution, Andrew's contribution, but also some things that were exclusive and special that, nobody else had been able to get. So it's,
So
an interesting process, all in all.
I was going to say, I was feeling bad that I didn't recognise many of the names in it, but from what you've just said,
no, you wouldn't.
No, I'm pleased.
You wouldn't. It's funny. Like every time that Andrew and I played, people with their phones up, Shazam on, and they just come and go, "It's not on Shazam. It's not on Shazam." But it's like, no, it's not on Shazam. That's like Andrew joked to me that if we ever made a record together, we should call ourselves the Shazam Battlers.
Good name. So why didn't you make a record together? So here's the thing. I had been making records myself for a long time and progressing quietly in my own sort of amateuristic way, and
Andrew had obviously been making records in his equally amateuristic but much more successful way. But I visited the studio a lot, and the way that Andrew works and the way that I work are completely polar opposite ends of the spectrum. Andrew's very he's not technical. He wasn't technical himself. He could play keys a little bit, but was an absolute master of vision, having an idea, putting something together. Whereas I'm more of a technician than a tinkerer. And whereas Andrew would kind of bash something out in an afternoon and it'd be brilliant, I'm the kind of person who needs to kind of fiddle with it, put it away, come back to it. And but also there was a part of me that I thought, here I am DJing with probably the greatest DJ of his generation, and a slight kind of that imposter syndrome, thinking here I am just DJing. I don't want to be kind of on his coattails for production as well. So I just wanted to keep that separate.
Fair enough. The version of the album I've heard, which I'm pretty sure is the first version, isn't it? Did you think about mixing it? Or
yeah, there is a mixed version.
Oh, okay.
I can send it to you.
Oh, yes, please. Yeah. So which is the main version that's coming out?
So, well, here's the thing. There will be vinyl, double vinyl, unmixed. There'll be a double CD of one CD unmixed, one CD mixed, and there'll be like digital downloads of all of the above, I guess.
I've just literally seen it says along with an unmixed and mixed CD version.
There you go. So the mix was an interesting exercise. I did it about 3 or 4 times, and trying to, trying to condense a club night, which is usually 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours long, down to 72 minutes is the records that we played are 8 or 9 minutes at a go. So it's a very kind of abridged version of A Love from Outer Space. I mean, I did it, mixed it, got it down to about 1 hour and 3/4, which is the shortest that I could make it, and then we had to edit it a little bit. But
is there one all-time A Love from Outer Space anthem? I don't know. I'm maybe not the right person to ask about that. Yeah, actually, although it's not a slow record, but Kolsch, Kolsch on Compact, they've got a track called Alta, which is a huge piano thing. Mm-hmm.
Or Teen Girl Fantasy, Cheaters, the John Talabot remix.
Yeah.
They're big kind of anthemic piano house records, but equally that I could give you Patrick Cowley, Journey Home, from one of those re-released gay porno soundtrack albums. It's just, we cover so much ground, and I think there's different anthems from different times, and some of them are techno records and some of them are disco records and some of them are, I don't know, but I think probably Kolsch der Alta would be if I had to.
You've talked about production a bit. Hardway Brothers is your main.
Yeah.
Is that the name under which you released for Sabres?
No, that was Flash Faction.
Ah, okay. That name rings a bell. Talking of Hardway Brothers, you recently covered Smashing Pumpkins 1979.
Yeah.
What was the thinking there?
I just like the record. I always like the records. Yeah, I remember. I worked with this girl, Sarah Rebecca. Worked with her quite a few times on a few different things, and she's an American woman from New Orleans, living in Paris, and she's kind of in the Alison Moyet kind of school of big women with big voices, and she's got an incredible voice, incredibly talented. But as for somebody that has such talent, has been so criminally underrated and lacking in success. But Sarah's somebody that I work with a lot. We did an album together, which in about 2015, which I still think is a great pop record, but the label absolutely hated it. But
well, they know.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, yeah. So I just thought it'd be an interesting to do a version of that with Sarah.
Funny
So
enough,
we did. I did a krautrock version of it, and Andy Bell did an incredible kind of stripped down, beautiful, just guitars and vocal version of it, which is probably the one from that session.
funny enough, that's the only Smashing Pumpkins song I like. I don't particularly like them as a band as a rule, but that song I really like.
I like it. It's just that sample beat. It's like it's had a kind of quite krautrockish kind of feeling to it. So I just thought, fuck it, I'm going to make it into a krautrock record.
Look, it's been great to speak to you. I just want to ask one more thing, if I may, which is,
of course,
what's the best memory you have of A Love from Outer Space? That one kind of memory that keeps you.
Okay, there's a couple. So when the first time that Andrew and I DJed in Croatia, we did a boat party, and yeah, it was the first time I'd been to Croatia. We did a party on the boat pulls in at the end, and people are just singing, "We're not getting off this fucking boat," chanting it. And Andrew looked at me and I looked at Andrew, and he said to me, "I think we might be onto something here." But also, we Trow in Amsterdam. The first time we did it in the basement with Daniele Baldelli, which was fun. And it went so well, they invited us to play in the main room. And like, did you ever go to the Trow?
No.
Unbelievable. One of the best nightclubs that ever existed, in my opinion. But yeah, the first time we played upstairs at the Trow is quite overwhelming. So it was an old newspaper factory, but there's very high, long room, podiums at the side, crowd can get you behind you, so you feel like you're in the arena, they're about to let the lions out or something. But yeah, that was particularly special as well. But yeah.
Amazing. Oh, so the album's out February 14th. Anything else you got plans?
Remixed. I've done a few remixes recently. The usual stuff. I tell you what, my friends Justin Dayton and Leo Zero started for fun a re-edits label called Totem Edits, which is available for free on Bandcamp. And my music production career was kind of reignited by re-edits, but I've really gotten back into making edits. Been making some pretty cool edits. So I did turned LL Cool J's Going Back to Cali into like a hard floor style Acperience, which is pretty fun. Old Chicago hip house track. Did one just before Christmas of Block Party Signs, which has changed it in from a fairly dreary sort of mid 2010s indie record into like a really beautiful chiming glockenspiel emo acid end of nighter. And I just finished one this week. I'd have thought that what if Throbbing Gristle's 20 Jazz Funk Greats was actually a funk record, which I made happen.
Sounds great. The Totem Edits, you say?
Yeah, so that's something that I'm doing with Justin, which it's just fun. It's like just to be able to like take something, absolutely turn it inside out, but recontextualize it. There's a lot of fun in it. And then I think I've got another Hardware Brothers EP coming of ALFOS tools after the album, but I'm really mostly focused on the album at the moment. And then remix projects come and go. I haven't actually worked on any new material myself. I have to be in the right I'm like Wurzel Gummidge. I have a DJing head and a production head, and at the moment, I've definitely got the DJ head on. So, yeah.
Well, look, thanks so much for taking the time to speak.
Pleasure, mate. An absolute pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. And congratulations on the album, which I've been.
Thank you very much.
Good deal. All right. Well, have a lovely day, and thanks again.
No worries. Nice to talk to you, Ben.
Cheers, Sam.
All the best, mate. Bye.